You're watching Boston Latino TV.
Pa'lante, mi gente, echen pa'lante.
I'm Evelyn Reyes, and you're watching Boston Latino from the Huntington Theatre Company. Tonight was the opening of Boleros for the Disenchanted, a beautiful story about the power of love and the strength of the human heart from Academy Award-nominated writer Jose Rivera. What was your inspiration for Boleros?
Well, the play is about my parents, basically. So Flora and Eusebio, are my parents, and they met pretty much the way they do in the play. And then the second half of the play takes place almost 40 years later, and that sort of is a very accurate depiction of what their life was like.
And what was the larger theme of Boleros? Because I kind of felt there was an undercurrent of many things.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest theme was about commitment. And when you commit to somebody, what does that mean? And, they make a commitment to each other in 1953, and obviously they can't see the future, so they don't know what's going to happen. And so we, the audience, get to see what happens, and we see how that commitment is tested. And the question we ask ourselves is, will they live up to that commitment, or will they, fall apart?
Your mother was here with you watching the play. What was her reaction of seeing her relationship with Eusebio played out?
Yeah, the play celebrates their marriage and the sacrifices they made. I think she was very moved by having her hard work and sacrifice being honored like that. And so she was a mess. She was in tears. She couldn't stand up for a while. But she was also very grateful and thanked me for writing it.
I'm sure she really is very proud of you, as Boston Latino TV is. And do you have a final message for our Boston Latino TV viewers?
Come to the play and support Latino theater wherever it happens, not just in the big theaters like the Huntington, but the local theaters, your high schools, get your kids involved. When I was young, I didn't know there even was a profession called playwriting. And I think that message should go out to the kids and say, there is a way to make a career in the arts, and it's a good career.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
Hola, me llamo Mónica Raymond. I'm an actress here in Boston doing Boleros for the Disenchanted, and you are watching Boston Latino TV.
You're a modern young woman. How did you feel portraying a woman of 1953?
It was difficult. Clearly I don't know what it's like to be a young woman in 1953, but I do know what it's like to be a young woman in love. I do know what it's like to have these ideals and be willing to risk anything for them. And I know what it's like to be passionate about something and do whatever I need to do to get that. And that's what Flora has. She has a lot of heart, a lot of guts, and it took a lot of research to know what it's like to be a girl in 1953, but it also took me remembering my experiences and bringing that as well.
I am with the director of Boleros for the Enchanted, Che Yu.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. We just saw the play. I really enjoyed it. How did you make the cultural connection to the play?
Well, the most important thing is actually listening to my entire cast and Jose. They're great resources. And I think because I'm an immigrant to this country and also come from a country called Singapore that used to be a colonial power that the British used to have, I do understand the status of Puerto Rico, and having lots of friends who are Puerto Ricans, going back and asking them what is this identity that they have in this country, and also what is this to be Puerto Rican in 1953 was actually very helpful for me to understand this. And I have two great actors who are older, Socorro and Jaime, and every time I have a question, they come to us and tell us what's going on and what are the cultural intricacies. And even the younger generation of the actors are turning to the older generation, which is so beautiful, it's like a family, for insight. And they're both encyclopedias about what Puerto Rico is, what the Puerto Rican way of life is. And that helps us to understand so much more of the cultural context to appreciating where the story lives.
What experience did you draw on to portray Flora?
I'm a mom. I have a daughter. My mom, also from Puerto Rico. My family, also I come from a large family from Puerto Rico, and all those are the experiences we live. I think it's universal. Betrayal is universal. you've had your heart broken. We've all known what that is. If you haven't, I hope you never do. And where we find our fortitude, where we find our strength. Because if anything, the Latinas women's strength is like no other.
Yes, that is very true. These are the men of Boleros for the Disenchanted. I want to ask you, gentlemen, why is it that men are the cause of all our wrinkles?
Well, you know, I think actually at the root of this play is a line that the priest has in the second act, which is love is not to be veiled or prettified. But I think what's beautiful about this play, I play the young Eusebio and here's old Eusebio, and in the first act, it's a beautiful play. It's set in Puerto Rico. It's lush. The language, the sentences are longer. It's very romantic. But what's beautiful about the play is that actually when we get to Alabama in 1992, 40 years later, everything seems sparse and everything seems to be disenchanted. It's actually it's real, and the love that you see portrayed in 1992 in that setting is more beautiful.
The word machismo would probably fit in for these characters, but in the positive sense too. The fact that they wanted to look out for their family and to the best of their ability, the way they were brought up too.
Yeah.
So your life is like modified by your education or lack thereof, but they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
So, did any of you see any identification with any of the characters you portrayed?
I think at the core of it, at the core of the idea of, I do sense that the gender roles and tied in with that intrinsicness of the culture of having a role that you fill. It's like, growing up, it's like, we see it as this costume, as this uniform, this armor, that men have. And they put an armor above themselves because they have to be a man, and it's filling out a role as an actor would any other role. You fill a role. There's a way to speak, there's a way to take care of a woman, there's a way to talk, there's a way to take control. I think growing up, depending on where you're from, but in Latin culture for males, I think everybody can identify to a certain degree of that. But I think a lot of the general themes of this play, loss of love, of finding, disillusionment with idealized forms, I think everybody, no matter where you're from, race, class, creed, can identify with that. Those are very universal themes.
So lastly, what is your take on love and marriage now after this play?
Well, I think that especially after this play, it really comes down to the lessons of the second act. That it's about commitment, and that it's not about this sort of getting in it real fast and the first impulses, but it's really about how you're going to carry out that impulse, which is actually being there and dealing with being in the trenches with your partner.
That sounds like a good ending thought for me. I want to thank the three of you for being here, and I certainly enjoyed the play. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the interview. Thank you.